The love of money is the root to all evil, and this video is for those among the fold, flock, and congregation who are still of the mind that there is a difference between those established left of center, and those huddled to the right of agreed upon centrality, and if given a few moments, I will show all those who remain clinging to that reeking, fetid and malodorous left-right consistency, yea those still believing that both sides of government are not the same, this video is for them. Hi folks, I hope this video finds you well, and this day I hope this message finds you in possession of an open mind, as we venture the left and the right wings of the government, the conservative and the progressive, yea the dexterotatory found charged by wages to run this circus act engaged under the big top, hippodrome, and this theater of performance we call governance. Folks, as I've said before, the veil has been lifted, and what remained under it, hidden in certain residency, in the dark, has now been exposed and has come to light, thanks to the internet. My friends, are you aware that as of 2020, well over half of the 535 members of Congress were millionaires? In addition, the median net worth of members engaged in leadership is approximately $1 million. Let that sink in as we do some figuring. As well, let us ask ourselves, can the filthy rich relate to the poor among us? I mean, can someone who has never gone without, can they adequately represent, relate to or identify with those in society impoverished, impecunious, and basically the poor among us, when and where folding money is concerned? And I guess what I am asking is, can a people averaging an income of $31,133 per year be appropriately governed by those never having been racked with the pain associated with just not having enough money? How many of you grew up in a household where as was heard, we just can't afford it right now, or, we just don't have the money? When hearing that on a daily basis, the poor tend to look at the rich through different eyes, and just imagine being in the first Cub Scout meeting where all the other boys were wearing Cub Scout uniforms, and because of money, or the lack thereof, one boy sat in regular clothes waiting for the money to come in, so that his mother could afford a Cub Scout uniform for him. Well, having first-hand experience, it doesn't feel good at all, I'll tell you that right now. Folks, here is the breakdown of governmental incomes by job description, and I promise this won't take long. Position: Speaker of the House of Representatives. Folks, the yearly salary for that position is $223,500. Then we have the majority leader and minority leaders respectively, of the House of Representatives, whose yearly salaries are $193,400 per year, and the run-of-the-mill representatives make per year $174,000. Now, the Senate breakdown: of the 100 senators, we have the President pro tempore of the said same Senate, whose salary is $193,400 annually, and the 99 remaining senators, 2 from each state, minus the already spoken for President pro tempore. My friends, the run-of-the-mill senators are paid each $174,000 a year for their efforts. Let's talk a bit more about money, ranging from chump change, the same being the money that you and I are accustomed to carrying around and living on, basically being the money availed to us, which is used by us to scrape through life, which is our accepted hand-to-mouth existence, compared to the millions and billions of dollars that some folks have in the bank, invested, or that which is otherwise availed to them making sinful interest. I asked Google what the combined net worth of Congress was, and of course they wouldn't provide me with that number, so I had to do some legwork, and it took me a little while, as you can imagine, and I still don't have the total that I was looking for. However, I do have the combined total of the top 50 richest Congress members combined, which totals $3,010,200,000, and that's a lot of money, is it not? Folks, do you realize that is more money than the net worth of some countries? I'll tell you what, they surely have stumbled upon the land of milk and honey, and they have been squeezing the same from it, haven't they? And that's only the top 50. Can you imagine the total net worth of the remaining 385 members of Congress? And as one can imagine, it is an astronomical number, possibly in the billions, I'm not sure, and if I weren't so lazy you'd have that total number as well. So why are net worth so important? I mean, what does that mean? or tell us. Let's talk lucre, folks, and see what ta Biblia says concerning the same. My friends, lucre is Strong's word number G2771, with the G denoting a Greek word, and the Greek word for lucre is kurdaje, and is pronounced kurdos, and folks it means of uncertain affinity, gain, pecuniary or genitive case, with pecuniary or genitive case meaning money generated or gained, and lucre as well means advantage. My friends, as stated previously, our Father speaks to that advantage or monetary gain, which in ta Biblia is called filthy lucre. So why this message, insofar as our representatives being millionaires and billionaires are concerned, why is that so important? It is reported that rich mindsets see potential growth, while poor mindsets see potential loss. Moreover, rich mindsets focus on reward, while poor mindsets focus on risk. I ask you, what do the filthy rich think of the poor, in general? When asking that question, we need to speak to income inequality, which is defined as the difference in how income is distributed among individuals or populations. It is also described as the gap between the rich and the poor, called wealth disparity, being wealth and income differences, called the wealth gap. I guess what I am asking is, can the wealthy adequately represent the poor, as I've heard in the past that we are breathing their air, and we are eating their food? My friends, if you ask me, they don't like us much, to the point whereas some may think that we are their enemies. Have you ever heard it said that there are too many people in earth? Well, I have, and what in fact is meant by that is, there are too many people in earth with nothing to do, yea, too many sucking off the societal tit without giving back a smidgen. And if you look at it using the good eye, the reason why Social Security is in the news today, and is said to be failing, is because of the lack of people contributing to it. I mean, when I was in 9th grade, there were 8 people working to every 1 collecting, and today that ratio is 3 to 1, meaning there are 3 people working to every 1 collecting. Folks, I'll tell you another reason why Social Security is failing. Back in 1981 under Ronald Reagan, the government began borrowing money from the Social Security Trust Fund, and they have failed to pay it back. Basically, they stole our retirement in order to finance their whims, wars, and rascality while they party down to Macon Town, on our dime. So again I ask, can the filthy robbing rich in Congress adequately represent the poor? I say nay, and they prove it with every unjust law passed by them for their benefit while excluding ours, and their support for the failing Ukrainian war is proof. Folks, they are wrong in backing a comedian turned politician, and each Patriot missile fired at Russians is $3 million a pop, but they can't afford to pay my prescription for my COPD medication. I ask you folks, why should we be supporting a communist state at war with another communist state? My friends, getting back to the left and the right, is it the left that is supporting the murder of civilians in Ukraine, or is it the right who are murdering them? In addition, if the soldiers were not embedded in cities, then the cities would not be attacked, having civilians by proxy slaughtered. And does anyone have the total of the civilian population that have been attacked and killed? This is what Google is reporting, copied and pasted from the horse's mouth. The Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights verified a total of 6,952 civilian deaths during Russia's invasion of Ukraine as of January 9, 2023. Folks, I don't believe that number for 1 minute, and a bit closer to home would be if another 100,000 were added to that number, and I don't know how many of you realize this, but more civilians were killed in World War II than were those in uniform, and all this time I thought civilians were off limits, especially children. Folks, it just ain't right, but that is what you get with crazies in the wheelhouse. Now, getting back to the left versus the right, 13 Republicans from the right side of the aisle jumped ship and position as to vote with the Democrats and Biden on the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill, which in part pumps $65 billion into the internet companies in order to provide high-speed internet service to the masses, which means that the government can lie to us faster, yea, at the speed of light they can bear false witness against that which is so. Are you aware that the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill greatly helps those responsible for the COVID-19 attack that has crippled our country and the world, And did you know that flyby cost the world $1.2 trillion? President Biden's infrastructure package, which Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer got passed on November 5 this year, includes $7.5 billion for transitioning to electric buses and electric ferries and incentives for solar power. Speaking of solar power, about 1/3 of the polysilicon, a material used to construct solar panels, comes from the Xinjiang province of China, where human rights of people such as Muslims are reportedly being violated. As well, the transition to electric buses and ferries that Biden wants also benefits China because China produces more than 70% of all electric vehicle batteries compared to 9% produced in the United States. Whoa horse, with Biden wanting to dictate at such a great capacity, it makes one scratch their heads and wonder, is bumbling Biden the king of the world now? In addition, in total, the United States has committed more than $106 billion in assistance to Ukraine since January 2021, however the Russian invasion didn't happen until a month later, on February 24, 2021. Does anyone smell a foul Congress reeking of corruption? You see my friends, this is all new to me, as I come from a time whereas the United States was represented, to school children, as being the sharpest arrow in the quiver, and today, due to the internet which was provided by our Father in order for the veil to be lifted, mentioned at the onset of this message, we can see that the United States is not the sharpest tool in the shed, and because of the internet we can see provably that those school children were lied to by those knowing no better. So again I ask you, what is the difference between the left and the right, in the government? Let's ask Google and see which flag they are flying today concerning. They say that the fundamental differences between left-wing and right-wing ideologies center around the rights of individuals versus the power of the government. They go on to say that left-wing beliefs are liberal in that they believe society is best served with an expanded role played by the government, while in opposition to that notion, people on the right believe that the best outcome for society is achieved when individual rights and civil liberties are paramount, whereas the power of the government is minimized. I would take this time to ask, does it really matter the size of the entity that is opposed to the people, as the government has proven itself opposed to you and I time and time again, and that is a country that is on the verge of being reckoned with, and please know that Jesus will do that reckoning upon his return. Returning to the left and the right, when the left is in power are babies still aborted, and when the right are in power is there less spraying of poisons and soft metals upon a blinded populace ignorant of the same? When the left are in power, are taxes lowered, or is that done only when the right wing are in rule? Guess what, left or right, the same signature appears on all of their paychecks, from the Treasury, and believe me when I tell you, Jesus was not a fan of the Treasury, nor was he in favor of a corrupt government that rode roughshod over the people, and the poor are mentioned so many times in Ta Biblia it's not funny, as it's always been a case of the rich against the poor. Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 16. He that oppresseth the poor to increase his riches, and he that giveth to the rich, shall surely come to want. Yes folks, I can safely say that the rich in this country oppose the poor, which has been the practice of the wealthy since the beginning. Here is a verse whereas a whole message could be written. Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 2. The rich and poor meet together, the Lord is the maker of them all. Again, the Lord is the maker of them all, and there is a reason for such divide, which I will not go into at this distant meet, but I will put together a message addressing it. In closing folks, there have always been the rich, and they have become rich on the backs of the poor, and that is their fruit, as we cannot all be the same, as if that were the case, what lessons could be taught, or learned by either opposing side? My friends, be content with your station and estate, and please know that there is no difference between the left and the right, where the government is concerned, and on that note, be well, stay strong, and I thank you so much for listening my friends.